Well, hello, welcome to another English 1060 lecture. Today what we're going to focus on is the ethnographic essay, and we're really just investigating why people are the way they are, and that's really what's happening with ethnography. It obviously fits a variety of fields from anthropology to sociology to psychology to even health sciences, all sorts of things. And so, just to give you a brief overview of the term, it comes from the Greek, ethnos meaning folk or people, and then grapho to mean write, so it's writing about people. In this case, what's different from Essay One is it's a qualitative research design, and it's aimed at exploring cultural phenomena. It's a very popular form, and it's extremely popular in the 21st century and, of course, late 20th century with reality TV. And so the resulting field study or case report reflects the knowledge and system of meanings in the lives of a cultural group. So we're looking at parameters of culture that specific people have in common, and they share similar experience, even though obviously at the same time as a shared experience people have personal reactions which may of course be different or similar. So what the ethnographic essay does, it's a means to represent in writing the culture of a people or offer a glimpse to unique groups. So the genre has roots, as I said, in anthropology, but of course sociology, biology, culinary arts, theology. All these use ethnographic research to discover and discuss particular sectors of population. And again, all you need to do is turn on TV, and you could see our fascination with ethnography. Even though it obviously is not written form, reality TV is a form of ethnography. We're studying family dynamics, we're studying cultures with their food habits and their food traditions. We're studying how people act down at the shore. All sorts of ideas are being played out in reality TV that are the same kind of questions and interests that ethnographic writers have. How do people build families, build communities? How do people live by tradition, break tradition, follow rituals? And so it's very important that we recognize that in the mainstream culture, ethnography is very important, and ethnography is a multi-billion-dollar industry, mostly because of TV, obviously. But it is important to look at, why we're so fascinated by personal interest stories, shows about people, even if, obviously reality TV is kind of scripted, but it has the semblance of truth, right? The semblance of reality, and so that's obviously important. And so in this case, this goes back again, review that evidence lecture. This is the first hand research. What ethnographic research requires is the accumulation of empirical data. And this term is very important if you're not familiar with it. Empirical evidence or data is a source of knowledge acquired by means of observation or experimentation. So this is not what you did for essay 1. This is all the knowledge you will gain from talking to people, observing them, right? Obviously, you shouldn't conduct any experiments on them, but any sort of, study, observation, field note, what have you. Data collection for ethnographic studies are meant to capture the social meanings and ordinary activities of people in naturally occurring settings. The good thing is your phone now is, a huge kind of, digital lab, because you could take pictures, you could have recorded comments, you could have all sorts of amazing things on your phone. And so the methods for ethnography include participant observation, field notes, interviews, and of course surveys, right? Asking kind of a questionnaire format. And so things you want to consider in L. Richardson, in evaluating ethnography, he establishes really clear 5 key goals for ethnographic writers, and I think they're really good roles. And so we want to think about this. And so, and one important factor with this essay, especially when you talk to your friends and family, let's say during an interview, they may kind of be very hesitant at first because they think, it's a essay, so this doesn't seem as serious as, going to the library. But it's just as important. Human investigation is just as important, than library investigation. And so what you want to think about is substantive contribution. So, does this piece contribute to our understanding of social life? And in this case, what does your essay add to the constructs, to the reasonings, for why high school exists, right? And so you want to offer a good insight, not only into an understanding of each person's belief or philosophical ideas, right? But also, we are almost all of us have had this shared experience of high school. And so what does it do when we sit back and reflect, right? What does high school mean, right, to the everyday person? Another aspect is aesthetic merit. Does this piece succeed aesthetically? And if you don't understand what aesthetics is, definitely start investigating it. This is something very important that I discuss in 1050. What aesthetics is the idea of how do you determine what is good or bad, not on a moral sense, but on an artistic level. So what do you consider beautiful? What do you consider ugly? What do you consider good art? What do you consider bad art? What do you consider, high art versus low art, right? So for example, comedy, right? Fart jokes, right? They're not very sophisticated, but why don't we consider fart jokes, the highest peak of, intellect, right? Well, because we have these other ideas of wit, cleverness, right? All sorts of double entendre, right? And so aesthetic merit is very important, and we could even apply this to models, right? Especially with a lot of models becoming bigger and bigger to protest and subvert, the long-held, idea that skinny is beautiful, and so that's what our aesthetic means, right? Why do we think that skinny is better looking than chunky or buxom or things like that? And so it's all of these parameters of what do you think adds beauty to art or the world. And so, you always want to think about that too in anything you write. What are you trying to do aesthetically? What are you trying to show, right? And in this case, how well do you convey the issue of high school being a helpful or hurtful institution for people? Another important factor is reflexivity. So, how do you come to write this text? Obviously, it's in the class, but, is there adequate self-awareness and self-exposure for the reader to make judgments about the point of view? So, going back to actually Ashley's great question, we don't want to infuse our own biases in this essay. Now, obviously, we could have them, and there's nothing wrong with them at times, but, we don't want to inundate the essay with our own bias. What we want to do is base our essay on the answers that people give, right? And we don't want to, even during the questions, right? We don't want to try to kind of coax answers from them. And of course, the impact. So, what are you really after? And this is a good kind of essay to really think what's going to be the major force within your essay? Is it going to be an emotional one? Is it going to be an intellectual one? How do you want it to affect me as the reader? And I think that's an important question for any essay, but it's kind of vital when you think about, when we focus on people, what do we do? Do we want to just create sensationalism? Do we want to just create, a spectacle? Or do we want people to move beyond just an emotional response and think more profoundly about the world around us? And then the last one, of course, expresses a reality. Does it seem true? Right? Is it a credible account? And this is very important when we get into ethics, right? Are you presenting your interview subjects as credibly and ethically as possible? So is this a credible account of cultural, social, individual, or communal sense of the real? Right? And so again, luckily, I don't, I trust everyone in this class. I don't think people are going to fabricate, any kind of subject. But you want to express a reality, right? And that's why we're looking beyond the library in this essay to look at, how do we cultivate people? How do we look at people as, again, representatives of culture, as people who represent life experience and all sorts of, very, profound ideas. And so we'll look at this obviously in the next couple of weeks, but just to kind of give you a good sense of what's happening, right? Ethnographic essays seek to explain and demonstrate how complex human beings are, as well as how similar we are across the globe. Again, every culture has a form of music, every culture has a form of comedy, right? It may not translate from culture to culture. What one culture thinks is harmonious is discordant to another culture. But of course, why? And that's where ethnography comes in. What are the similarities to show us how, basically, either equal or similar we are? And then what are the differences that reveal how complex human beings are as well? Yeah. So these reflective essays, and again, they're not narrative essays, they're reflective essays, show what we can learn from others and how ideas change, grow, and of course remain throughout human culture. Ethnography is the study of us, right? And it helps us to kind of consider who and why we are, and that's a very important aspect. And so in this essay, a lot of times people just, even if they get disgruntled during a high school experience, just take it as a given. In order to get a job, in order to go to college, I need to follow these steps, right? So what this essay does is just allows people to have a conversation about an experience, that was anywhere maybe from 4 years to 5 years. And it also is an important opportunity for you to reflect on why high school exists and how it functions in people's development. As always, if you have any questions, always email. If not, enjoy the rest of the week. And again, we're going to spend a lot of time on ethnography in the next 2 weeks. So again, if you always have any questions, please email. If not, take care.